You are listening to The Platform. Podcast to learn about our digital world. I am Mike Veldhuis, partner at Nolte.com.
I'm Michael Morton, VP of Dell Technologies Data Management and Intelligence and Dell Technologies Fellow.
Hi Michael, good to see you again.
Hi Mike, great to see you.
Episode number 3 and named Ready, Set, Go. And like we promised in our previous episode, today we're going to talk about how to become an intelligent business. I'm quite excited about this episode. What about you?
Very much so. This is it. This is the beef right here. This is the meat between the buns. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, I wrote this quote, like turning data into information into action. And I think that's basically what we're going to do today. And we have a promise. At the end of this episode, we'll give you a checklist of really stuff you can do about how you can achieve this goal. So, but to kick it off, last episode, we really talked a lot about culture in your organization, what you can do to improve it, to enable digitization into your company, creating an intelligent business. I think today it's time to talk a little bit more about data and the data platform you have to create to organize all this stuff on top of it, to create the value out of it. And when we talk about data, we talk about Michael Morton. So where should we start?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, first, where you start is, okay, we'll just do a little bit of a rehash of what we talked about in the previous episodes, and that is the critical thing is, what is it that you need to answer for the business? Okay, so let's think about a category, a very common one. If you are a business and you say, geez, you're trying to grow, you have a product to sell. Everybody has a product to sell. But who are you selling it to? You're selling it to your customer. But if you ask yourself, do you really understand your customer? Or do you really understand the customers that you want to sell to? So a great place to start is just to start exploring the simple question of do you understand your customers so you know how to sell better? You know how to service better. You know how to innovate better. Mm-hmm. You know what data to use. So that's a really great place to start.
Okay. At the end of this podcast, this episode, we're going to tie this example to the checklist. So what are exactly the steps you have to take to take off to make it a successful adventure, you know? But then again, the data platform, where it starts. We have the example. Thinking about data, a couple of things pop into my mind, like security and trusting and owning. Could we elaborate a little bit about that? Data. What is important, Michael?
Okay. This is how I tend to think about it. And for me, like many other people, I'll try to use something a little bit humorous here if you think about it, but data, it's almost intangible, right? It's not like a car, your house, but just think that you put a saddle on some data and you're writing data. That, of course, really invokes a unique image that people will think, yeah, okay.
And saddle on your data.
Put a saddle on your data.
Okay.
But here's the important point. The important point is this. It's a life cycle. That data was born someplace by an application probably, or you could even say that data was born by a person, right? The person caused that data to be created. But just think, data actually has a life cycle. It was born, it was moved, it was changed, it was used over and over and over. So the most important thing is, okay, you just talked about trust. Mm-hmm. You could think about pedigree, legacy. Is it truthful? Well, I guess that's kind of part of trust. Are you even allowed to use it? That's another very tricky and important point is if you start using data, even within your own business, do you have the rights to use that data? Because maybe it's sensitive data, right? This world we live in around data privacy and policy has really changed the landscape around data significantly. And quite frankly, it will change it much more in the years to come. You see all kinds of things in the media. So our world around data is going to change a lot. So back to life cycle is just think about the life cycle of where you to get that data, where was it born, all the way through to finally using that data to generate the answer that you seek. And that is a very, very complex life cycle, very complex.
I really enjoyed the thought about the birth of data. You asked in the first episode, you asked me what device do you touch when you wake up, which was my Apple Watch, actually my phone. And the question is that my data? That's just a question that pops into my mind. Is it Apple's data or is it my data?
Right.
Can I actually use this data? And that's like a simple, maybe a simpler question or topic. But when we're dealing about companies, it's mega complex because there are so many data sources. There is so much data you consume every day as a business. And probably not all of it is yours, right?
That's correct. And you have, I'm just going to say the phrase, here is likely to me the most critical skill in a business, the most needed technology is data governance. Mm-hmm. Everything around data governance is just, that is the most important piece of the whole data lifecycle is how are you building and managing and your culture. Data governance is not just a technology. It's not just, helping you understand the pedigree, the trustworthiness of your data. That permeates all the way into your culture, because if your culture has a lack of understanding of using data to solve a problem because it's sensitive data, then you have a culture problem. So data governance is, to me, the most important and number one area to invest in as a business.
And what would be, the first thing they should invest in? Is it about tooling or is it about people? Where to start?
First of all, there is no easy answer to that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. But because it's so important, I really want to give our listeners at least a clue where to start.
Okay, I'm gonna conveniently go back to data lifecycle. The business wants you to generate an answer to a question. So let's go back to our understand your customer. Okay, so can a business honestly say today which customers in which industries and how do they use your product? Seems like a very simple question, but many businesses have no idea. And if you had the answers to that, it can give you a lot of insight. Mm-hmm. So starting with the question is when you quickly start discovering, hey, what data do I need to understand my customer? Mm-hmm. Who are they? Where are they? What industry are they in? What's the other opportunities for me to either demonstrate that my product provides value in that industry for that customer? Could be anything. But it always starts with that data. What data do I need to answer that question? So to start, it's always important because you'll know which data do you need to start with and which data do you need to start adding to answer those questions. And you can actually
check whether it's your own or not.
Correct.
Makes sense. And our scope for this podcast series is pretty broad, and it's we really want to give answers to the how. But it's about awareness as well. So by popping up these questions ourselves, we hope you as a listener start thinking about, okay, I never thought about it, or I did think about it, but it's very obvious now. I should give it some more thought. And I think in the end, it's about creating this intelligent business. And like we call it, MVP, your business need. So we discussed the question you want to get answered. You know, the data you can use. We now got some awareness that it could be not your own data. So you should make sure it is your own data, or you are able to use it. And to get to the next steps, Michael, to launch this, to really red, set, go it. My first item for the checklist would be create in your organization, create ownership and accountability for this MVP of your business needs. You agree?
I agree, because now that I'm thinking about it, I agree because this is the wonderful thing about you and I when we bounce these things. I mean, sort of ad lib off each other, is I listen to your words and I immediately think the skills. You need ownership, you need accountability, but that naturally brings, okay, now what skills do I need? And quite frankly, the skills is a really hot commodity in the market. I mean, you will notice that very interesting companies have many job openings, for people that they need to help a business be an intelligent business, leadership, as well as technologists. So my answer is yes, I agree with you 100%. Because in my mind, I map that to the skills, getting the right people.
I got 5 items on my checklist, and the second one is allocate resources, and then we're most definitely talking about people,
beautiful, yeah,
and technology, right. and get the knowledge from outside. That's one of the things we do as a company. We are enabling our customers to move faster because we have the skills at Nalta. So it could be Nalta, it could be another company. But make sure that the needed resources are allocated inside the company, the tool sets, the technology outside of the company. My third item on the list would be measurable timelines. So make perfectly clear what you're aiming for. Put that in a very clear schedule that everybody can measure. We'll come back to the everybody part probably in episode 4. But to the company, it's perfectly clear what you're aiming for and how and in what time frame you're going to achieve those goals. So very transparent. And then we're actually on the go part, Michael. I think the 4th item on the checklist would be implement, right?
Yeah, right. Start. What do you need to produce the answers? Yeah, implement. What technology do you need? Is it technology that you can trust? Not only the data, but people might be eager to pull open source solutions off the shelf. So you have many considerations about, okay, can I trust the tools? So you need implementation.
It sounds so obvious that on the checklist we say implement. But there are so many good ideas that never were implemented because the company got scared. Because there was not enough focus, because there was not enough ownership. We got that on our checklist, right? But actually starting to implement the solution and using it is so powerful to actually do. So it's obvious but powerful. And the last thing on our list, and I really love this one, is celebrate wins. People absolutely share wins with each other. You got going. You got the ready, set, go. You got your project. You got your building an intelligent business, and celebrate it. Celebrate it if it succeeds. Really important.
One more comment for you is the celebrate win makes me think this. The most important step of your entire journey is to produce results from your newfounded insights. You celebrate the win when you demonstrate you've impacted the business.
Thank you for listening. This was episode 3. Really looking forward to episode number 4, where we're gonna propel perfection. How can we continuously improve those projects and really start becoming the intelligent business? Thank you for listening.